Hi, I'm Jeff with the Halcyon Masters, and 5v5 is here. It is a radically new game, and with early access, we've come up with 10 of our best tips and tricks to help you get on the Sovereign's Rise and really experience the best out of this game mode. Now, just a couple caveats before we get into this. The meta is still incredibly new, so the tips and tricks here are more of things to help you get comfortable with the new map as opposed to hard and fast rules. But with that, let's hit the intro. Starting off at number 1, add some tank to one of the lanes. Now, the meta is probably going to shift quite a bit, and a lot of times you're going to want to have a crystal-powered mage in the middle lane. But on the top and bottom lane, you can have a little bit more flexibility. You're going to want a high damage dealing hero, maybe in the bottom lane, but the top lane you can do something a little bit different. Try throwing a tankier melee hero up there, so that it rounds out your composition and allows that particular character to both do damage and then also soak up a lot of damage as well. A good choice here may be Glaive, or Alpha, or someone else that has a little bit more sustain to help you out in those team fights. Tip number 2, the early game Invade. Bring along a friend. Now, invades are going to be really important because you have more area and more jungle to go into. So you can either do a 5-person invade all the way in on one side, you can split it 3 and 2, 3 people taking the top or 3 people taking the bottom, or you can play a little bit more passive and create a little bit of vision around your side of the jungle as well if your team isn't necessarily as suited to an early game pressure. 5v5 is going to have a lot more macro strategy, but if you do decide to go into that enemy jungle, bring along a friend. Number 3, let your jungler get the weapon buff in the early game. Now this may sound counterintuitive because the buffs are really revolving around giving your damage dealers that extra little bit of oomph in the middle of a fight, but that's more true in the later game. In the early game, if the jungler is able to get the weapon buff, they're more able to clear out the jungle in a faster rotation, and then that also allows them to come up and help you potentially gank your rival in the lane, either top, middle, or bottom. So help out your jungler, let them take that red buff so that they can get through the jungle a little bit quicker. Tip number 4, bring a friend over when you're taking the gold toad. This is worth a massive amount of gold, 200 for the person that hits the last hit, plus the ambient for their friend that's around. If a friend is not around while you're taking this, you lose out on all that extra gold that could be going into your team's coffers. Tip number 5, captain minions. These guys control the wave and are going to be a huge part of the game because the minions are going to be more important about pushing those turrets when you're not necessarily there. So one of the strategies you can do is just take out the enemy's captain minion and then rotate down and work with your team. That'll create what's called a slow push. There are going to be a bunch of videos coming out by other content creators talking about just this, so be on the lookout for even more details on how to actively control the lane. Number 6, how to use teleport boots. These gave me the hardest time. I could not for the life of me figure out how to use these. Step 1 is pan to where you want to go. You can either use free cam or the mini map. Second is push on the boots and then tap a minion. This will bring you directly right into the fight. Alternatively, you can use a scout cam to port to as well. So I put one in the back of the enemy jungle near their gold treant. Again, I'm going to pan over, use my free cam, click the boots, click on the scout cam, and look at this. Surprise, I've got your gold treant. Tip number 7, the vision game in 5v5 has completely changed. Now everyone has access to vision. The first thing you'll notice is next to your abilities you'll see a scout cam with 2 charges at the beginning of the game. To activate one of these cams, simply click on the scout cam and place it to where you want to have it. Now this scout cam has a set duration for its life, so choose where you want to put it wisely. There are also upgrades in the shop to the scout cams. To find those, you can navigate over to the other section, and you'll see that you have Scout Pack, which gives you 1 additional scout cam, and it reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds. Scout Tough increases the maximum durability of these scout cams, allowing them to take 1 extra hit before the enemy can kill it. It may not seem like a lot, but if you have a scout cam next to another hero's scout cam and you can get yours out or kill theirs before they can kill yours, they lose vision on yours and it'll remain up there. Finally, you have the Super Scout 2000. You hold 3 more scout cams for a total of 5, and you obtain them 60 seconds faster than the default rate. It also allows the scout cam to last longer. I guess these things run on batteries. One other thing to mention is that 2 items have changed. No longer do you have the consumables of flares and scout traps. Those are gone in 5v5. But flares can still be purchased by finding the flare loader if you're looking for a little extra vision as you go along. Tip number 8. Flicker has True Sight. This is a new mechanic in Vainglory, and True Sight means that you can see anything, including hidden objects and enemy heroes. So when Flicker is going through the map, when he stealths, he gets True Sight, meaning he can hunt out the enemy scout cams and that pesky enemy Taka.
Great!
Tip number 9. Ghostwing's buff only works when you're out of combat. Ghostwing is an incredibly powerful objective to get in the game. It helps your team push through to victory or secure those objectives that are a little bit harder to get. But you need to know a couple things about this buff. 1. It does give you a shield and a barrier, but this shield and barrier is only temporary, and once it's chipped down, you don't have added regenerative properties during a fight. That only kicks in once you're out of the fight. And I believe the duration of Ghostwing's buff is about 90 seconds after your team has taken the objective. So use it wisely, but know that if you step out of the fight, you can regen a lot faster than the enemy team. Tip 10. Split push to gain the advantage. Macro play is going to be incredibly important in 5v5. Macro play is more about what's happening on the map and how your team is playing together than any one character's individual achievements. Split pushing is one of the simplest forms and examples of macro play. If you see the enemy team grouping up down on the bottom lane and pushing in, you can send one person that's going to go unobstructive up into the top lane and push their turret. You can also do this with Black Claw. As the dragon is pushing down the middle lane, send your teammates to the bottom or top, push some extra turrets. Tip number 11. Support your support. Are you a tanky laner? A jungler? Consider a second Crucible or Atlas. This is going to be big. Because there's a lot more abilities in the game, there's a lot more to block and to be protected from. That concludes this episode of the Tier 10 list. We hope you find at least a couple of these tips and tricks helpful as you get into Vainglory 5v5. The meta will be shifting, and I'm sure we'll be updating this video with new and creative ways to play. I want to thank everyone for stopping by. Be sure to subscribe, and until next time, we'll see you on the rise.